live at Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, bringing you the best in real Texas barbecue. This is Sooner Sports Talk on the Sooner Sports Network from Learfield.
Stripped by Godwin, breakaway, Sam Godwin, hammer! Godwin picked the pocket.
Wing to Verhulst, quick release three, swish.
Fierce, pull up three for the tie, foul! He hit it! He hit it! Miles, pump fake, steps left, open three for the lead, got it! He knocked the bottom out of it, and the Sooners lead it! Northweather for three, big Luke! Big Luke! Bam! Throw ahead to Moore, Moore with the breakaway, he'll dunk it, and you can unhitch the wagon! You can unhitch the wagon! Put the ponies in the barn!
This is Sooner Sports Talk.
Welcome to Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. This is Sooner Sports Talk, and I am pumped to be talking a little college basketball over the next hour or longer. Please join me in welcoming the man who is in Greenville, South Carolina this weekend for the women's run towards the semifinals that has been covering Porter Moser's team all season long. Sooner standout Tyler Neal. What's up, buddy? Good to have you back. Good to have you here on stage. Good to win your last two games heading into the SEC tournament. Jenny Baranczyk is coming up a little bit later on here on Sooner Sports Talk, live from Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. And let's get things cooking with just recapping the week that was for the men's team, Tyler. Opening segment brought to you by Noble McIntyre and McIntyre Law. Noble McIntyre, McIntyre Law, the law firm you should turn to for all your personal injury needs. Two different games between Oklahoma and Missouri. Up at Columbia is like, what was that? Then all of a sudden, a completely different world here in Norman Wednesday
night, yep.
Wow, just impressive. And then you go to Austin, where Oklahoma is battling for its postseason life. They're scratching, they're clawing, they're fighting. Joe Lunardi goes from having them the last four in to the last four out, or the first four out, to the next fight. It's just been a battle to stay right on that bubble. And they go in what some called an elimination game, and they took care of business against Texas. Can't think of a better way to build more momentum towards Nashville in the SEC tournament than what this team did in the final week.
Yeah, 100%. On the Missouri point, Plank, I think it's important that we point out what the new conference, the SEC, the new kind of scheduling quirks that have come with the new conference. Missouri was one of the only teams that Oklahoma got to play both home and away.
That's a good point.
So it's not like the old days where you play each conference opponent home and away, at least the days when I played. So when you got a lot of revenge game opportunities if you lost that first one, and that was the case against Missouri. We're seeing some of those highlights here.
Missouri, Texas, and Texas A&M, I think, were the only three games where you played both home and away.
And two of those, you got revenge in the second one.
That's right.
2 out of 3, Oklahoma did a really good job of bouncing back and getting a victory when they lost the first time out. Seeing some of these Missouri highlights, I just thought, this is probably the game over the course of the season where the Sooners had the most control from tip to finish. And, of course, at some point in the second half, Missouri's a good team. You see there on the scoreboard, Missouri ranked 15th on the day of that game. You knew they'd come with a fight here. They got within 8 right here before that Jay Moore dunk. But the Sooners did a great job. Bryson Goodine, how about that three? A couple of those three-point attempts late in the game. The cojones, if you will, to take some of those shots.
I like that.
I love that he took them. He knocked that second one down and kind of iced the game. And that was a much-needed win against a good Missouri team that deserves a lot of credit for the strong SEC season they had this year after 0-18 last year.
Yeah, Joe, I was trying to pull up bracketology while you were talking about it. Missouri is a team they're comfortably in right now. That's a team that I want to say maybe even as high as a 6 seed.
Yeah.
And what you've seen a little bit from the Tigers
ranked 15th
so far.
Probably, obviously in that game.
5 seed. They're 5 seed. And they took care of business. Now, before we get to Texas, let's talk about the concern for the Missouri game. Everything that Sam Godwin has done over these last 5 or 6 games has been really special. The dude has found another level. You can kind of get the sense that he realizes, hey, the clock's ticking a little bit.
Sure.
He's elevated his game. And then he gets dinged up against Missouri. Obviously, you hope that he's ready to go for Georgia. Fingers crossed for maybe if you can get to Kentucky. But just in general, the way he's played, Tyler, that's a big loss because of just what he's meant to this team.
It is, and you just hate that it happens on his senior night too, and then you hate that he was having such a good game against Missouri before that happened. So the initial worry there, of course, after, okay, let's hope Sam isn't out for a really long time. Let's hope this isn't a serious injury, which sounds like you just said, he's avoided that. Let's hope, that the guys coming in can play well and get this victory in a game where the Sooners started off so well. They were obviously able to do that. Mo Wague came in, played some really good minutes. We'll talk about the Texas game here shortly, but, you see these are all highlights. I mean, Sam got hurt in the first half of this game.
Yeah.
All those highlights were just in a few minutes of play. He was playing so well, so you hate that for him on his senior night, but sounds, like the worst news is not a possibility. And when you ever see a knee injury, could be out a long time, and it sounds like we've avoided that. So hoping that he can get back here and play a few more times in a Sooner uniform.
Yeah, he'd been in double figures in 3 of the last 4 games.
Yes.
Including and by the way, one of those games, as you mentioned, he only played the first half against Missouri.
Yep.
He might have been the best player on the floor against Mississippi State outside of Jeremiah Fears when he put 17 on the board. And he's been solid when it comes to the boards, 10 boards, 6 boards. You hate to see it, but then there's also that positive where, hey, Wague played well. Luke Northweather played, I thought, really well.
Yes.
Now, obviously, different type of bigs on that front, but it's exciting to see these guys take advantage of their opportunities.
Yeah, and you say, Northweather, up until this Texas game, you're right. He has been a different, type of big, a floor spacer, a stretch 5, if you will, a 3-point shooter, a very good shooter. He can really get it going whenever he sees 1 or 2 go through, and that's what he wants to do. But in that Texas game, Plank, the effort that he played with in a lot of the same areas that Godwin is good at, the rebounding, the creating extra possessions, the reaching in and getting a hand on, even if you're not going to go get the offensive rebound yourself, knocking it out to a teammate. He did that a couple times. He tried doing it 5 or 6 times unsuccessfully, but that over the course of a game, if you're trying to block a guy like that out who's incessantly going after every loose ball, every offensive rebound, it's not fun to play against. That hasn't been Luke Northweather's calling card to this point, but he showed you that he can do that. And, man, that just makes kind of this late season run here for the Sooners all the more exciting because if you do get Godwin back, you got 3 bigs that you feel really good about being out on the floor at any time.
Didn't want to take a moment, though, real quick before we move on.
Yep.
Skip Johnson was
You're
up
making me wait talking about a win over Texas way too long.
Well,
here,
we had one, if you will, kind of cliffhanger because we couldn't come up with the name of the catcher that had written the book. Skip just texted on his way home.
Oh, okay.
Jason Kendall was the catcher we couldn't come up with. So thank you, Skip. I told him as soon as you get in your car and you start driving home, we're going to remember that speedy catcher.
I hope he voice texted that and he wasn't.
He was at a stoplight. It's all good. Yeah, he's good to go. Hey, all right, Texas. Wow, what a performance. We were hoping there was a lot going on in Austin. South by Southwest had a big barbecue festival. But their fans still brought it. And that's a cool environment. That's a neat arena. Yeah. And Oklahoma went in there and they took care of business without Sam Godwin.
Yep, they sure did. And, I mean, this is a fun game to look at kind of the stats after the game because it's not one where Oklahoma went in and shot the cover off of the ball and just ran away with a win. They had to do it in a way that was kind of grimy at times, kind of just doing things that they haven't necessarily done up to this point in the season. The one thing I want to point out, Chris, only 5 turnovers as a team for Oklahoma. Texas had 11. And it hasn't, turnovers haven't been a huge issue for the Sooners, but it really kind of came to mind for me when the Sooners were playing against Ole Miss. Ole Miss was second in the country in the least amount of turnovers per game. I didn't think the Ole Miss roster was any better than what Oklahoma's putting out there, but Ole Miss is making the most out of every offensive possession, every offensive opportunity. They're getting shots up, on the rim. Worst case scenario, they're not giving it to the other team. And you saw that in this game so that whenever Oklahoma didn't, they shot under 40%, like I said, 8 of 24 from 3, which is fine. It didn't kill them in the end because at least they were making the most out of those possessions and giving themselves opportunities. And also, when you're not turning the ball over, you're not giving your opponent the opportunity to run back the other way on you and get easy baskets. Texas also shot under 40% on their home floor, which is really impressive to do generally on a senior night for a team.
Yeah, and you saw the Kobe Elvis play.
We don't have to show those free throws at the end there.
No, you're right. We were good on that front. But what what's kind of wild about it, you mentioned, so I got lost in the box score while you were going through it, and some of the things are amazing. OU went on the road and won a game against Texas where Jeremiah Fear shot 2 of 14 from the floor and didn't make a three-pointer.
Correct.
Now, he still had 13 points because, as you said, he was aggressive. He was getting to the line and he was hitting his free throws. Jalen Moore, good to see. He looked spry. He looked healthy. Whatever seemed to affect him in what was that, the Ole Miss game? Yeah, seemed like he was looking good. Just 2 of 7 from the floor. Still
also
finished with 10 points.
Also
no threes made. But yet you finished with 6 guys in double figures.
6. When
Glenn Taylor Jr. and Luke Northweather, which you've been preaching this, the couple of times we've done this show together, you've been talking about, you get those opportunities, you got to take them, and you got to make them. And they did it. And it made all the difference in the world for Oklahoma on a night where, like you said, they only shot as a team 39.7% from the floor. And in the second half, it was 35%. And they missed 6 free throws, but like you said, don't have to talk about that, especially down the stretch. It was gutty, and it was gritty, and I think it's what you want to see from this team because those are the kind of games that obviously help your resume and getting you in the tournament, but those are the kind of games you're going to play in the SEC tournament and, good Lord willing, in the big dance.
Yep, absolutely, and you're getting closer. Don't want to say they're all the way there yet.
Right.
I think you need to behave as if you have more work to do. If you're Porter Moser and that staff and this team, play as if you need to win the game that you're currently preparing for to get in that NCAA tournament, and the results will take care of themselves on that front.
We're due a break, but there is one very important thing that we have not talked about yet that we need to get to. Porter Moser suit game got to continue, right? Coat and tie. Every game where he's had the coat and tie on, right? He's won.
3-0.
3-0 with it. Now, I don't know if I think he was just doing it, for senior night or
I think so.
And when it worked, you're like, come on,
as soon as somebody says something about it, you got to keep going back to it. That's for sure.
And it might, listen, the Porter's the best. It's not for you, Porter. It's for us, okay? We look at this, and you're looking sharp, and you've won 3 in a row, or 2 in a row, 3 of your last 4. It's our good luck charm right now. So we need that suit.
And these days, with a suit, you can still go with some cool Jordan
kicks. That's right. It's like you're not wearing a suit anyway. You got your tennis shoes on. But one more thing on Porter in all seriousness. I was listening to his radio postgame with Toby, and I understand. The record's not what anyone wants it to be. No one wants to be sitting here sweating the bubble. But when you heard his emotion and his passion, and I know they're getting ready, so they couldn't be here tonight, but the care and the amount of work that's gone into this and the love, I mean, you can tell there is not going to be anything that's left whenever this team is done, man. They've left it all out there, and it's really cool to see.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah, there's no doubt. It's hard. There's a lot of outside noise when things aren't going well.
And everybody sees it.
Everybody sees it. He's been singing the same tune throughout the year. Got to bounce back. Got to have resiliency. We will get there. We will get there. Then when when those results finally do come, you realize he's been saying these same things all year, and he sees this in this team, and it's fun to kind of see the fruits of that here at the end of the year.
All right, Jenny Baranczyk's coming up in just a bit. We're going to talk about the SEC tournament coming up, the matchup against Georgia, and we've got a member on the All-SEC freshman team. We'll tell you about when we come back right here on Sooner Sports Talk live from Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue.
Sooner Sports Talk is brought to you by Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, bringing you the best in real Texas barbecue. Walden Cleaners and Laundry, where the difference is quality. Riverwind Casino, good times, great rewards. Dos Equis, the official import beer of OU Athletics. Go for Dos. Enjoy Dos Equis responsibly. Bob Moore Ford is proud to honor service members through the Patriot of the Game. Log on to Soonersports.com/kids for information about joining the Sooner Kids Club presented by OG&E and brought to you in part by Orthodontics exclusively, Mathis Home, and Devon Energy.
Welcome back to Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue with Sooner Sports Talk, and Tyler Neal and I are recapping the week that was for the men. Jenny Baranczyk's already here. A resounding welcome whenever Coach and her husband Scott came in. So we're pumped to talk some women's basketball coming up in the latter half of this here very radio program and TV program as well. This segment is brought to you by Dos Equis, official import beer of OU Athletics. Go for Dos. Enjoy Dos Equis responsibly. One thing we didn't talk about in the Texas game. One of the best players in college basketball is Trey Johnson, standout freshman for Texas. against Oklahoma, 0 for 14 from the floor. Seven free throws, 7 rebounds, but you held Trey Johnson in 34 minutes to 7 points. What an awesome defensive job.
0 for 14 from the floor.
0 for 14.
You know, there are games where you show up and you just can't get anything to fall, but to go 0 for 14, he's too good to go 0 for 14 on his own. Oklahoma deserves a lot of credit for that. And I'm glad we brought that up because we did forget to mention it about that Texas game. That was a big storyline. I mean, this year they've kind of gone as he's gone, and he didn't go very well in that one in Austin this weekend.
And one more thing. Toby asked, can you tell I listened to the radio broadcast on Saturday? So I listened is what I did on Saturday to him and Steve.
Even through the post-game interview, too.
Even through the post-game interview.
You didn't turn it off.
I was driving. So whenever you're driving and you're on the road, it's like, I got it on the franchise. I'm tuned in. I'm good to go. But Porter said they threw a lot of different bodies at him. And, you know, obviously, you kind of look at the foul trouble for Oklahoma in that game. It wasn't. I mean, Bryce Goodine had 4. Duke Miles had 4. Of course. Oh, I'm sorry. Muhammad Wagoo had 4. So you had guys that maybe got a little extra foul trouble trying to battle with Trey just a little bit, but that's what you got to do. Yeah. Whenever you're going up against a star. Like
and credit to Jordan Pope and Larry as well. They kind of got going a little bit. I mean, Texas is a good team. They're not going to just completely shut down because their star didn't play well. But that is the art of winning basketball games at this point of the season, is taking away something and forcing the team to beat you with something else. And Texas did a little bit, but just not enough. It was a great win and much needed win for the Sooner men.
Yeah, and you know, again, you only saw 8 minutes from Dayton Forsyth. There's going to be matchups that'll help him, you know, and maybe feed into him a little bit more. But in those 8 minutes that he was out there and active. So it's things you love to see. We move on to tournament play. Now, it's a much different world. Oklahoma's getting set for a showdown with Georgia. That's going to be on Tuesday night, so tomorrow night, and then
Wednesday night.
Sorry, everything's running together.
Late Wednesday night, 8:30.
Now, by the way, kudos to the SEC. You know, back in the day in the Big 12 tournament, they're like, this game's at 6, this game's at 8. And you're like, there's no way this game is starting
just go ahead and
it never
that
did.
one.
SEC is just like, it's going to happen 30 minutes after the first game.
And it might not even start.
It might not start then,
but it's better than 8.
We'll take a look ahead at the hoop schedule brought to you by the Trails Golf Club in Norman, where you can experience everything you love about golf and more. There's a look at it. Sooners in Georgia. Grant Wade, our producer this week, has projected an 8:30 p.m. start time on Wednesday night. And then we'll hopefully not have to sweat too hard for Selection Sunday. And then there's the realm of the first round of the Sooners could end up, if seeding holds as it looks like now in that first 4. But as it stands now, Georgia coming up, an opportunity to avenge a loss. Yep. Which this will now just be the 4th team that Oklahoma's faced 2 times this season. And boy, Georgia kind of started getting hot at about the right time to put themselves in position to make the dance. This league is ridiculous, by the way, in both men's and women's basketball.
Well, and Georgia was ranked in that game in Athens early in the season, too. So obviously they had the attention of kind of the national media and the voters and things like that, and they were getting results that were showing that, they're coming in. They've won 4 straight. Starting from today and working backwards, beat Vanderbilt at home. They went to South Carolina and won. They went to Texas and won, where Oklahoma just did. And the biggest one out of those 4, they beat number 3 Florida at home back at the end of February there. So, I mean, they haven't lost in a couple of weeks here. Oklahoma coming in on a nice little win streak, a 2-game win streak, but this will be a tough game. Georgia's playing good ball. They're scoring a lot of points. They scored 88 in regulation in that one against Florida, so this would be a great win. They cannot look ahead of the Georgia Bulldogs by any means.
Now, as we get set for the SEC tournament in the men's side, you were with the women. Before we talk about that, it's not only tournament season, it's award season.
Yes.
Congratulations to Jeremiah Fears, who was named to the SEC All-Freshman team after an outstanding freshman season. That's right. There's a look. I mean, by the way, every freshman in this league was incredible that you're seeing on this list.
Asa Newell there for the Georgia Bulldogs. See him Wednesday night.
And Trey Johnson, we just saw on Saturday night. But finished the season, the regular season, 16 points per game, 4 assists, 1.6 steals. He's the only SEC player, regardless of class, and one of just 2 freshmen to average 16 points, 4 boards, 4 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. He is already projected as a lottery pick. He is something special, and he's really we saw him hit a wall, right? He had a couple of frustrating games, and, boy, since that Florida game, even though he didn't have great numbers against Texas on Saturday night, He seemed to be just in the middle of everything.
Well, his floor changed from 6 or 7 or 8 points when his shots weren't falling to 13 on
great
2
point.
for 14 shooting against Texas. So, yeah, I love seeing young players whenever they start off. I mean, he's reached some incredible heights early. That Michigan game, obviously, with the 30 points, whatever he scored in the game winner, all the national attention he was getting. And then, like you said, he hit a wall. Your game gets on tape. Everybody sees how athletic you are. They got to give you a little more space. Okay, if they give you more space, you aren't knocking down your open threes at the level you'd probably like to or have the capability to. And I love kind of the work, seeing the fruits of the obvious work he's put in to be better about really one thing mainly. He still can get downhill at an incredible rate, but when he does that, he's starting to get better about being concerned about what needs to happen after he's gotten his shoulder past the defender, and that's playing off of 2 feet, playing from a strong base with a great foundation where if a shot isn't there over a rim protector or a shot blocker, he's making the extra pass, making the play for the offense. And once he started to do that, everybody around him can play basketball on a little bit more of an open floor because of the advantage he's created. And that's, not to mention, he's also had some really good scoring games lately here, other than that Texas one, but plenty of the 20-point performances we saw early in the year.
Very early in the season, it might have even been like after the first weekend, the whole crew of men's basketball coaches came up, and I think it was one of Porter's assistants said he's not in that position where he thinks he's too good to ask for help.
No, not at all.
He's not overly arrogant or cocky.
Really good teammate, too.
Right. It's not, Jalen Moore and Sam Godwin to say, hey, this is how we do it. He's not, forget you guys. This is how I do it. And he became a really good teammate, great teammate from everything we could see. And it helped when you had senior leaders and guys who have been around like Jalen Moore and Sam Godwin for him.
Yep. I want him back. I'd love to see him back for one more year.
I would
I don't
too.
know if it'll happen, but I'd like it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, whatever it takes. We're in this crazy world in NIL, but
Yes.
when you start talking lottery picks,
it's hard to compete with that.
That's a tough world to compete with.
Is.
All right, hey, before we grab a break, Ginny Bronczek's coming up next. You were in Greenville, South Carolina, where the Sooners made the run to the semifinals. Boy, I thought that Kentucky game was one of the best women's basketball games I've watched. But what a run for Coach Bronczek's crew in their first ever women's tournament.
You know what? What I loved the most was they didn't go out there. They didn't by any means shoot the cover off the basketball, but they still played really good ball. And they were playing great ball coming into the tournament, winning, what was that, a 7 or 8 game win streak on the way in. I think they got that up to 9 with the win over Kentucky, who's a really good team. By the way, Kenny Brooks doing a really good job. And Georgia Amore is an awesome player, and the Sooners did a really good job on her. I think she had 29, but it took her 27 shots to do it, and that's exactly what you have to do against a player like her. There's so many positives to take away from that trip, though. Anytime you go over 500 in any tournament play, you're doing a good job. You go 2-1, you do lose to South Carolina, but South Carolina, they're kind of the standard right now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to it's hard to say that sometimes, but it's something to strive for and achieve for. And there were plenty of runs throughout that game where you did show yourself that you can play with them. Yeah. And what does another season look like under Ginny where you can do that even more so and eventually become that team. And I think there's no reason to think that this program is not headed that way.
You're the best. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate
it,
you.
Plank.
Tyler
Stuff.
Neal. We'll talk with Ginny Bronczek next. We are live from Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue with Sooner Sports Talk.
Sooner Sports Talk is brought to you by Norman Hyundai, your premier Hyundai dealership for new and used cars. The best place to gear up for game day is shop.soonersports.com. The Sooner Sports Podcast is your all-access audio pass to Sooner Sports. Listen as Toby Rowland and Chris Plank talk all things Sooners. New episodes drop every day. Log on to Soonersports.com/podcast or search Sooner Sports Podcast in your favorite podcast provider. Presented by Allstate and Riverwind Casino. Orthodontics Exclusively is a proud sponsor of the Junior Captain of the Game. Junior Captain is the ultimate fan experience for children 6 to 12.
There she is. Welcome back to Sooner Sports Talk. Ginny Bronczek joins us live from Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. What's going on, Coach?
How are you?
I'm good.
It's good to be back.
It's good to have you back.
It's good to be back.
I got to see. I hardly get to see your husband. I saw Scott was already here. I saw you brought the whole crew here.
Yeah, they're eating.
They're eating. Good call,
yes,
man.
Of course.
Good call.
Of course.
Man, so much to talk about. But let's first just kind of wax nostalgically on the season. 25-7, 11-5 in our first year in the SEC. Avenged some losses. I thought the Kentucky win was awesome in the SEC tournament. We're not done yet. But overall, how'd you feel about the way this team handled year one in the SEC?
I mean, I don't even know if we necessarily know that yet. You know, I mean, you want to go right down this path, and yet you're like, we have a week that we got to get better, and then you get to find an opponent who you're playing, you know, and you get to kind of rest up a little. But I am really, I think we learned a lot. And if we can continue to have, I mean, the growth that we've had every month, if you take it segment by, month by month, and the growth that we had from January to February was phenomenal. If we can have that same growth, and you could see that we're playing pretty good basketball. And obviously we hit a big juggernaut in South Carolina. But when we played our game, we were a lot better in the second half than we were in the first half. But they're so good. And so when you get to test yourself against somebody that good twice in a season, once at the end, once in January and then once at the beginning of March, it's a heck of a lot better than you learning those lessons in, NCAA tournament time.
Right.
So we learned those lessons. We get better this week. Just couldn't be more proud of the team and where we're going. But I will tell you, thank you.
Yes.
I will tell you what the SEC does do is it makes you compete at the highest level. It makes you compete for, I mean, when you looked at who was in that Final Four in Greenville, that's a Final Four. That's an Elite Eight. That's your second round of that NCAA tournament. So you're playing high-level tournament basketball at the SEC tournament. And it was just it was a really cool feel.
I don't know if you're a bracketology person. I love it.
I'm not.
Okay, all right.
My husband is, so he
Scott,
can come up here.
next segment,
You want
give me
him on the next
bracketology talk,
segment.
baby.
So
Let's
he
go.
has all the answers
But
to most things.
good,
Isn't that amazing?
good.
He probably would say the same to me. Sorry.
2 1s, a 2 and a 3. That's what it looks like. That's 2 1 seeds, a 2 and a projected 3. I mean, that's no joke when you're talking about the Final Four from one conference.
Well, it was amazing. And you start looking at, because all the Power Fours had their conference tournaments at this, on the same day in the finals,
Right.
the same weekend. And so it was interesting. You start to look at that there were 4 top 10 teams. 4 top 10 teams in the country at our tournament. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's really impressive.
This segment, by the way, is presented by Riverwind Casino. Good times, great rewards. Now, Tyler had asked this to you, so I'm going to steal a question that he brought up before we look back on the games. This is a little bit unique because you get done and now you got a week, maybe even a little bit longer whenever we start thinking about games. How have you laid out this schedule and how fluid does it have to be?
Well, we had a little rough getting back, so we were hoping that we could fly back after the game on Saturday.
By the weather,
and
yeah.
We weren't able to, and so we flew back on Sunday, and it kind of got a little more delayed than we wanted, and we kind of had an emergency landing. We had all the things, and I'm going to just shout out our band and Spirit Squad because we traveled with them.
Oh, okay.
What a wonderful group of young people. I tell you, I get obviously a front row seat constantly to our student athletes, and I see them all the time, and you see them at their best and their worst, and I'm so proud that they get to represent our university. But when you get to spend some time with the band and our Spirit Squad, I tell you, they were phenomenal. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and there was no complaining, and it was hard. It was a hard day. And so anyway, long story, but we were off today, so we weren't necessarily going to take today off, but we took off today because we just kind of had a long day yesterday, and then we'll start up back tomorrow. What the nice thing is you don't even know who you're going to play again, so you really get to look at how are we going to get better? So we try to simulate some games throughout this week of practice. We want to give them at least a full day off on Saturday so they can have a whole day off, because this is a stressful time for school too. And so they're trying to get caught up in projects. They've got their midterms coming. Some of them just started a new class, finished another class. And so it's a time that they really can focus on the things they need to really focus on.
And for you, as you just said, I mean, we're at the point where you kind of are who you are, right? But is there self-scouting that goes on too?
There's a lot of self-scouting.
Okay.
There's a lot of, so we'll spend probably if we're practicing for 4 days this week, essentially, and then we'll take a day off before we go again. We'll spend 2 of those days really honing in on skill development. That's something that we've done a lot of in some small group work. And then we'll go 2 days where we'll simulate game situations where you can really focus on getting better. And that's really to stay in shape. And every day they're lifting, they're in the weight room. And, even some of them today we're just getting bike workouts in.
Good.
They really focus on recovery too. I think that's been a phenomenal thing that we've been able to do as a program. We've done it since I've been here, but I feel like this year it's been a whole different level of focus, and I think it's just because it's become a standard of what it is that we do. But sometimes you think of recovery as like, oh, you just sit in an ice bath or you sit. It takes a lot of work, and so it takes a lot of time to be able to do that so they can manage their bodies, but they've done a really nice job of that.
My idea of recovery was a milkshake, and maybe one of these banana puddings. Yeah, that's probably not what the kids.
Oh.
No,
not pudding.
Okay.
No, and I
No,
don't
banana.
even know if I say pudding.
Pudding,
That was-
220, 221,
Well,
whatever
I'm
it
Midwest,
takes.
so I pronunciate the whole thing.
You do. It's just pudding for me. Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule since we're
Yeah.
on this, and it's brought to you
Yeah.
by the Trails Golf Club in Norman, and it's barren. But we know what's coming
Right.
up. Selection Sunday. So.
And you know what's really nice is I
What's that?
know that first round's going to be right here in the LNC. Isn't
Did
that
you
pretty
guys
cool?
know that? It's going to be right here in Norman?
It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
And deserved. So congratulations. But I'm going to use this opportunity to say, no matter the time, no matter the opponent, you got to be there.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
do. We need it.
One of the great things about being able to host is breaking news. It's on your home court, so your fans can come and support you. And you don't have this in men's hoops. It's been a women's basketball thing from day one. You got to pack the LNC. You got to show there's a home court difference here. And I know the women will feed off it too, won't they?
Well, it's 100%, and you're right. It's like our last game of the season that we played against Alabama, and Alabama's a really good team, and they have future WNBA players on their team. They're a very senior laden team, and I really tell you, our fans were so engaged in that game, and it was such a great environment. And there's no doubt in my mind that has a direct impact on the outcome of the game. I mean, we just played, against South Carolina in Greenville, and we played at their place. Obviously, they're so talented, and those fans really are engaged, and they're such incredible fans because they're so into the sport. They understand the sport. I'm sure that some people just came years ago and they liked it, and then they've really educated themselves and have become, national women's basketball fans. And so there's no way that doesn't have an impact on winning and losing a game, especially in close games. So we just need to make sure that when we, get to host in the NCAA tournament, the biggest time of the year, March Madness is basketball time. We need to make sure that we pack it for our players. And, it's for Oklahoma. It's a
Preach.
representation of, I can't tell you the national exposure that we have had as a program this year. I think we've had maybe like 11 to 13 nationally televised games this year. And that's a direct reflection of what we do, not just our program and not just our team, but what we do, especially when it's a home crowd, what we do in terms of representing our university. So we just need to make sure that we're out there and we represent all of Oklahoma, because this is a special place and we all know it. We just need to make sure everyone else in the world does.
And all that, this team's got a chance, man. They got a chance to make a run, and they need your help. So when the bracket's unveiled, Soonersports.com/tickets, we'll have all the information to get you ready for the Norman Regional. Quick break. We'll come back, and we'll talk about the SEC tournament, some standout players. Jenny Baranczyk is in the house on Sooner Sports Talk.
We want to thank all of our Sooner Radio Network affiliates across the state and region. Fans can check out Soonersports.com for an affiliate in your area. And if you're traveling outside the state of Oklahoma, you can listen to all the action on either SiriusXM Radio or download the Varsity Network app and listen free. Oklahoma Buick GMC dealers. See your Oklahoma Buick GMC dealer.
All right, welcome back to our final segment here from Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. Brought to you, our final segment is brought to you by Pike Pass, Make It Home Safe, Oklahoma. Coach Bronchek, we brought a special co-host for this final segment.
You know, she's just getting addicted to the show, I think, a little bit. She just finds her way up here, don't you, Hopi?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Hope, can I get your help here in this final segment? You got me? All right. Because Jordy last time asked the question, and you didn't. Well,
That's
at least
right.
when I was here.
That's right.
So it is time for the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue question for Coach. Remember, for the best in real Texas barbecue, Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. You got a question for Mom, for Coach Bronchek that we can ask her? Because I got one if you don't. And no rush either. We got, look, that's 9 minutes and 20 seconds. So you can take all the time you want, Hope.
It's your question. You don't have to ask it for me. You can ask it for Plank, too.
I can
your
answer
question?
anything you want. Like, for instance,
need to think about it?
what's your go-to when you would come to Rudy's? Are you a barbecue fan?
Oh, what do you eat here?
Yeah.
What's your
What if I were
favorite
to
food?
ask you the Rudy's question of the day?
What did you
It's-
just eat?
I forgot.
You forgot
Oh
what
my
you ate?
gosh, I forgot.
That's really
That's
good.
That's why I eat so much. I eat and I forget, and I just eat again. The next thing you know.
I forgot that I ate.
Hey, what? The balance. You and Scott are awesome. I mean, to balance.
Well,
to balance three
awesome
kiddos.
might not be the right word.
Three kiddos, all
but-
within the same wavelength. What are they? 5 years total.
So, yep, pretty much. So Eli is 12. He's about to be 13. And then Jordy's, her birthday's coming up. She's 10. And then Hope is 7.
that balance is
So,
crazy.
well, I don't know if balance is an actual thing, is it? I mean, I could ask you the same thing. You know, I mean, it isn't, but it's part of what we do. And, perspective, life gives us so many perspectives. And, family is always obviously the most important. And I think it's important for them to see that too. They
Right.
get to see, the mom part of you that, sometimes they'll say like, wow, you talk to your kids the same as you talk to us. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's good or bad, but you're right. So it's too hard to be different,
Yeah.
And so you want them to see that things are hard and that you have to work hard, but at the same time, you can still do it.
Yeah. Toby's favorite story, of course, is whenever you guys got stuck in where were you? Amarillo? And you had to bus back.
Yes.
And you had the snacks. You
I
had the
did.
because you
I
were
did.
ready.
I did.
Everyone was hungry. Mom had snacks because she was ready for the kids.
They had
to bus back.
what was funny was yesterday we were stuck in Memphis.
In Greenville. Oh, in Memphis. Okay.
We had to land halfway home or however far that is, and we were in the airport for a while, and so we had peppers and cheese sticks that we fed everybody. And when you're real hungry, you'll eat anything.
Those are good.
And so, our team got some nice little nourishment other than just the continued bags of chips that our flight attendants kept bringing us. So, so that's that little black cooler I carry with me everywhere is
Save the
sometimes
day.
kind of handy.
Save the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, speaking of that,
Yeah.
a little business here. Let's talk about the week that was. How did you feel your team responded in its first trip to the SEC tournament?
I thought the tournament was it was intense. There were fans. It was fun. It was we obviously we played Georgia in the first game and they had played the day before, and so sometimes you got to work through some things. I felt like we did that. Our game against Kentucky was another, two teams that are extremely offensive that we struggled to score. It was a defensive battle, and you got to credit them and you got to credit us for being able to make some plays when we needed to make them. But I tell you, what fascinates me constantly is the talent that is in this league. I mean, you're playing future WNBA players, future Olympians, night in and night out. And and then obviously we hit South Carolina like we talked about in that first game. But I was really proud of I really feel like we grew, we got better, and we still have some more improvement, which is really nice. So I don't necessarily think, oh, we were playing our A game and, oh, we've already peaked. I think we still have some opportunity, hopefully, in that next tournament to really peak.
Do you know what I liked, thinking back, watching the Kentucky game, is we saw it right there. There was Ivan. Freshmen that are fearless.
Zaya was great. She really was. She really was. And she got into foul trouble early and then obviously fouled out. And but her growth over this last month has just been absolutely phenomenal. I mean, that was probably one of the biggest daggers in the game right there, the sister-to-sister connection. So I feel like Zaya came in and especially playing a player like Georgia Amore at Kentucky, who is a future Olympian.
Yeah.
I mean, she is. She's very good. She obviously was incredible here in Norman when we played them the first time. And so for us to be able to come back and play her much better the second, she still scored a lot. But she had to work for everything, and the first time maybe that wasn't the case. So I'm proud of the fact that we're continuing to learn and we want to learn. And even our game against South Carolina, I'm proud of the fact that, we came back out in that second half and we were better. And then again, the coach and you, the mom and you, whatever, you're never satisfied and you just want more and you want more and you want more. And I think you can tell that that's where our team's at too.
You're the best. Congrats.
You too.
We'll see you next week.
Appreciate
That's Ginny
you.
Baranczyk.
Thank you, everybody.
Good job. All right.
Appreciate
We'll
you
come
all.
back to wrap up Sooner Sports Talk live from Reed.
Thank you to our cornerstone television partners, OU Health, OG&E, Fowler Auto Group, and Coca-Cola.
Final segment is brought to you by your Oklahoma Buick GMC dealers. I want to thank Coach Nick Kroll, Ginny Baranczyk, obviously Tyler Neal for coming out with us, and the man, Skip Johnson. We ask for your support for a lot of things, but with this upcoming NCAA tournament and the Norman Regional, Sooners could be as high as a 3-seeded women's basketball. Get out and support it. Soonersports.com/tickets. And OU baseball. If you're gonna watch along and listen along this weekend out in South Carolina, it's a rabid and rocking environment out there in South Carolina. We can create that here as well too at Mitchell Park. You can get your tickets and all the information you need at Soonersports.com/tickets. And a reminder, if you missed any of the program tonight, you can find it on our YouTube page and also podcast version. Go to Soonersports.com/podcast. The show will be available first thing tomorrow morning. For our producer, Grant Wade, for all of our guests, I'm Chris Plank. Signing off from Rudy's. And until next time, Boomer Sooner, everybody.
Live at Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue, bringing you the best in real Texas barbecue. Sooner Sports Talk has been brought to you by Dos Equis, official import beer of OU Athletics. Go for Dos. Enjoy Dos Equis responsibly. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Sooner Sports Network.